Hundreds of years ago, following the birth of the nation, the United States elected George Washington as president. What would follow would be many years of setting foundation, ingrained with Federalist ideals like the need for a national bank, a stronger federal government, and the use of tariffs. Early America also saw an increase in tensions with European superpowers, namely France and Great Britain. The Federalists reigned supreme up until the end of the presidency of John Adams. After only serving one term, John Adams was defeated by Democratic Republican Thomas Jefferson. This marked a new age of political dominance, with the Democratic Republicans taking the helm. The country experienced a short-lived political unity called the Era of Good Feeling after the Federalists fell out of power. After the controversial presidency of John Quincy Adams, we saw the first change in the American political party system in many years with Andrew Jackson. Jackson, a profound Democrat, wanted an end to the American system, the second bank, and the nullification. But first of all, who is Andrew Jackson? Andrew Jackson, born on March 15, 1767, in the Waxhaws region of the Carolinas to Irish immigrants, had a troubled childhood with little formal schooling. Then, when Jackson was only a teenager, the British launched an assault on the Carolinas, which killed his mother and his two brothers. Whilst also becoming a prisoner of war, Jackson developed a lifelong hatred towards Britain at a young age. As a young adult, Jackson moved out west to Tennessee with an interest in politics. In 1796, he eventually became a member of the House of Representatives, then the Senate, representing Tennessee. After fighting in the War of 1812 and being seen as a war hero, Jackson's overwhelming popularity convinced himself he should run for president. In the election of 1824, Jackson ran for president alongside John Adams and William Crawford. The results of the election were very close, with no one winning a majority. The tie was decided by the House of Representatives. The Speaker of the House, Henry Clay, and the rest of the House chose Adams over Jackson. Jackson's supporters were furious at what they called a corrupt bargain between Clay and Adams. Jackson angrily resigned from the Senate. However, Jackson took his revenge in the election of 1828, winning by a monumental landslide.
Jackson's attitude towards the common man was very supportive. Being born on the frontier, being self-made, and growing up poor made him relate to the average American. However, this did come with its downsides. He used this attitude in dealing with his issues in office. The way he talked to his cabinet members, the way he'd deal with problems was very aggressive and militaristic. If you didn't agree with him, then you'd have problems.
Jackson's relationship with his cabinet was rough at best. The tension is best exemplified with the petticoat affair. Secretary of Defense John Eaton married a Peggy Eaton right after she was widowed. This made Peggy wildly unpopular among other cabinet members, wives who would bully and shame her. Jackson, who empathized with Peggy, and John demanded that the wives talk to Peggy. When they refused, Jackson cleaned house and replaced most of the original cabinet members. This event alone shows off how poorly Jackson managed and dealt with his cabinet.
The downside to Jackson's presidency continued with the spoils system. When he was elected, Jackson used his office to put people in public positions who supported him during his campaign. This alone is very corrupt, but what made it worse is the people he put in those positions. They were either uneducated or not knowledgeable about the position they held. This caused major inefficiency. Jackson could receive donations from constituents and then put those constituents in the public offices, even if they lacked the knowledge to hold those offices.
Jackson had a hot streak of handling domestic issues terribly, and there is no better example than the nullification crisis. The South did not like the tariffs imposed on them and saw them as harmful to their economy. They did not want to deal with them, so they decided to use nullification, which according to Senator Robert Hayne, South Carolina doctrine of nullification is the Jeffersonian Republican doctrine. Jackson wanted to end nullification, even though it was constitutional and within states' rights. And Jackson did end it, threatening Calhoun with an army to end what he saw as an uprising. Jackson classified their objective as an object of disunion.
The Trail of Tears, the byproduct of Jackson's Machiavellian methods in an attempt to remove the Native Americans from their ancestral homelands. In the hope of gradually reclaiming them from wandering life, shines light on Jackson's insensitive and undiplomatic approaches to the situations he faced while serving America as a South American president.
In general, foreign affairs are not a main concern for the Jackson administration. Later into his presidency, a dispute with France nearly brought the two nations to war. In an 1831 treaty, France agreed to pay claims on American shipping. However, they never did pay those claims. Jackson became furious and asked Congress to authorize reprisals. After a lot of response back and forth, the end result was an agreement between the US, France, and Britain for France to pay the debt. Jackson often acted out based on feelings and not facts. Under his administration, Andrew Jackson decided to put an end to the second bank. He thought it didn't have the common man's best interests at heart and thought it was trying to suppress the lower class. Jackson went to war with the bank, saying, "The bank, Mr. Van Buren, is trying to kill me, but I will kill it." In reality, the bank was saving the country from financial collapse by giving credit to farmers. Jackson, blinded by his feelings, ignored Congress and personally ordered the removal of funds from the bank and put it into private banks. The idea that Jackson was like a tyrant is mainly brought about due to his abuse of executive power. For example, with the debate of the bank being the hot topic at the time, people began taking sides. On one hand, Jackson wanted an end to it, seeing it as class dividing. So he used his executive power to veto the bank without everyone's consent, and succeeded in doing so. Although Jackson portrayed himself as a man for the people, most actions of his did quite the opposite. By creating the spoil system, by arguing with his cabinet, and by refusing a second bank, Jackson indirectly created more economic problems. Overall, Jackson was a tyrant who made quick, careless, and questionable decisions that were only made to benefit himself.